or webcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. I'll identify closed session topics. 2.1, recommended reinstatements. 2.2, recommended expulsions. 2.3, recommended continued expulsions. 2.4, public employee discipline, dismissal, released complaints. 2.5, conference with labor negotiator. 2.6, anticipated litigation. 2.7, public employee evaluation. General public comment on any closed session item may be heard at this time. Pursuant to board policy, the board may limit individual comments to no more than 3 minutes and individual topics to 20 minutes. It is recommended you begin your comments by stating your name. Seeing no public comment, we are going to adjourn to closed session. Welcome. We will now convene regular session. Alonda Moran will serve as Spanish interpreter for this meeting. Meeting attendees who would like to listen to the Spanish interpretation of this meeting, please pick up headphones from the table located in the back of this meeting room. This announcement will now be shared in Spanish.
Yo, Alondra Morán, seré el intérprete del español para esta reunión. Invitamos a los asistentes de la reunión que deseen escuchar la interpretación al español, ir por audífonos en la mesa situada al fondo de la sala de reuniones. Gracias.
This meeting is being webcast live and recorded. The recording or webcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Members of the public who would like to provide public comment on items listed on tonight's agenda, we recommend you fill out the public comment form, green form, located on the table at the northeast entrance of this meeting room. Please hand the completed form to Board Manager Monica Andrew before the item comes up on the agenda. We recommend you complete a separate form for each agenda item you'd like to comment on. Ms. Andrew is sitting at the table in the back of the meeting room. There she is. Members of the public providing public comment, please use the microphone on the stand located in the front of the room. Board Member Gamoyen will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. In closed session on a motion by Board Member Odo and a second by Board Member Gaby, the board agreed unanimously by a vote of 6 with 1 absent to approve a settlement agreement with employee 22051. And revision to enclosure items and adoption of the board meeting agenda. There are revised item enclosures numbers 4.1, 4.3, 6.14, 6.15, 6.16, and 10.1. May I have a motion to adopt the board meeting agenda?
Sure, I move.
I'll second.
On a motion by Board Member Belt and a second by Board Member Villegas, call for a vote.
Motion passes unanimously with a student rep voting yes.
All right. And now we'll have Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Leadership, Mark Thompson, for our student performance.
Well, good evening. I'm not sure if they can hear me, but Green Acres Jazz Band, you're more welcome to come on in to start getting set up. Board, if you guys would like to come on out front. So if you would like to see them from the front, please do so at this time. So tonight we have a treat to have Green Acres Jazz Band with us under the direction of David Morris, and Mr. Morris here will share with us what they will be the music they'll be sharing with us tonight, and also some soloists.
Thank you guys for having us. We will be performing a Duke Ellington tune called Sea Jam Blues, arranged by Rick Stitzel, and it has 2 soloists. You have Gabriel Villanueva on trumpet and Madeline Schaefer on tenor saxophone. So I hope you enjoy Sea Jam Blues. Thank you very much. Looking to take a few minutes to strike out.
Board, if you guys want to come back to your seats, parents, you're welcome to stay for our meeting. We'll be here for a few more hours tonight. If you don't, and you would like to follow your student out, you're more than welcome to that as well. But thank you. Let's give them one more big hand of applause. Thank you guys for the work.
All right. Well, continuing the great things that are going on in our district, Superintendent Schrum for Spotlight on Good Things Happening.
Thank you, President Gaby, and thank you to Green Acres for that great introduction or that great music and a start to our meeting. So always love beginning our meetings with student performance, because at the end of the day, that is what we are all here for, is our students. So as we go into the spotlight, I do want to mention one event that we'll spotlight in November, but I do want to mention it because it took place last night. And so obviously we'll have images coming in November, but that was the Visalia Education Foundation Band Showcase. Phenomenal job where our 4 comprehensive sites, along with their band, their cheer, and their dance teams, all perform. And Visalia Education Foundation, of course, is a great partner helping us with teacher scholarships and support for our VAPA programs as well. And so did just want to give a shout out for that, and then let everyone know that we'll do that again in November and have a lot of great images. I think it was Sun Gazette or Times Del, I forget which one, but one of them ran some images in the paper that were really good as well, or in the paper, listen to me, in the online version. All right, so moving on, we, of course, in this past month, want to take a moment to commemorate 9/11. And one of the events that we have each year is Mountain View Elementary host an event for lives lost affected by September 11th. And many of our first responders from the community, students and staff are in attendance, and always a great event, just one of many that took place across our campuses during September. Also, our partnerships, of course, are very crucial to how our students grow. We're lucky to have many community partners. Just a few on the left, we see our Tulare County Fire Department at Ivanhoe doing a lesson on fire safety and equipment. In the middle, we have Grace Community Church celebrating Golden Oak students for their character at a barbecue. And on the right, our Visalia Pals, Police Athletic League, gifted students in our newcomer program with a bike, a helmet, to help the students get to school. So that was a great, we appreciate our partners as well, and many more across our district. It's that time of year, the fall, even though it's still 100 degrees, but supposedly it's fall or will be. So in recognition of that, many of our elementary schools are hosting fall carnivals and other things to promote community, engage parents, and fun activities that lead to fostering trust. We have a few represented here. Partners including our Kiwanis, Pro Youth, the police department, and many others. Some images here from Crowley and Willow Glen elementaries. And also want to give a shout out to our parent-teacher associations. Many of them are critically involved in helping these events take place. And so many more occurring as we move through October. Also, as we know, Hispanic Heritage Month is continuing. And so you see some images here of some of the events that take place across our district. Many of our schools do different events to recognize this month, from activities at the school to announcement awareness, among other things. And so we certainly want to spotlight many of the great activities happening across our district in recognition of this month. You might remember last year we started STEM nights. And so these are continuing this year. They were very popular. Many of us had a chance to go to one last year. These started this year. This time you see Hurley Elementary here. These interactive nights will occur at 9 elementaries, continuing from what we started last year, to give families the opportunity to explore STEM alongside their kids. This year, there's an emphasis on engineering design process, and about 170 kids and adults were in attendance for this event for the first one. Continuing with our academic spotlight on literacy, we want to make sure every kid is reading on grade level by the end of 2nd grade. This means our schools have to work hard promoting literacy at home and at school. And so we see several we want to highlight here. Annie R. Mitchell hosted a Wild West family literacy night with a scavenger hunt and puzzles. Then we have, moving to the middle, Golden Oak hosted a book tasting where students move from table to table browsing different books while sipping on Starbucks passion tea. Very creative. And then on the top right, another literacy night at Crestwood. Our local Rotary Club, again, a community partner, took time to donate food, and the school provided a book for every student to take home. And then continuing on the bottom right, we see a new event this year, and this was Riverway. And unfortunately, I was not able to attend this. I was hoping to, but they actually had a Zoom call set up with Khaleo Thomas, who starred in the Disney movie Holes. And Holes is a very popular book for students at that age that it wasn't a movie when I taught elementary school, but later on became a movie. And so the students read it, completed a project, watched the movie, and then got to have an in-person or a Zoom Q&A with that actor. So what a great experience for the kids at Riverway. And so thank you for all of these school teams for finding such great ways to engage with our kids. and families in literacy. Another one I'm really proud of, and I had the opportunity to have my listening session at La Jolla yesterday and was able to recognize them in person. So as the board knows, professional learning communities are how our staff at sites get together to talk about how are our kids doing, looking at our data, making instructional decisions. We have a district guiding coalition, and we're really excited about the work that we see happening in our school sites connected to professional learning communities. And at the same time, we know there are standards for excellence in everything that we do. And professional learning communities are no exception. Through our partner with Solution Tree, each year they recognize schools who have met certain promising practices on their way to being exemplary professional learning community schools. This is kind of a first step on that journey. Also reminding the board, professional learning communities are an expectation within our policy of our theory of action. And so it's very exciting to shout out La Jolla and Principal Bishop, probably here tonight, yes, in the back, hiding there, on being the first school in Visalia and I believe Tulare County to be named a promising practice school for recognition of the work that they're doing. So want to give them a round of applause. I know they will not be, they're the first, but I know they're not going to be the last. And we are going to be a school district of distinction when it comes to our professional learning community. So I'll look forward to that continuing journey. But thank you to La Jolla for starting us off on the right foot there. I said the other day, they're trailblazers, and then I realized, wait a minute. But they are kind of, right? But yeah, that they looked at me a little bit. All right. Moving on to the county fair, obviously a huge event, great opportunity for our FFAs and other students to present their work. And so really proud. A couple of us had a chance to go out and see our students in the competition. And so shout out to a few places. One, Visalia Technical Charter. Their team, chapter team, received second place. Two VTech seniors were also recognized. Rose Molina, first place in small animal round robin, and Kelly Christie won first place in large animal round robin. From El Diamante, Megan Jones won reserve champion for all other breeds and hogs. And then Libby Bardonix won reserve champion with her dairy heifers. So you see some images of those students there. And I know we're very proud of all of our students, and especially our teachers, our chapter sponsors. Each year I've had a chance to go, and they spend, I can't even begin to imagine the number of hours they spend there. And then the students and families working to be able to present. A lot of work goes into this. And so just what an outstanding job by our students and our staff. Continuing with celebrations, excited to celebrate Automotive Pathways students Gianna Cianez and Juan Hernandez from Redwood High School. Each received a $1,000 scholarship from Grupetti Automotive. They won this for completing over 80 hours of hands-on experience this summer. And our partners are, again, invaluable for contributing to the success of our students. We know that many of these students, whether, may choose to go on and pursue advanced degrees in school, but we also have quite a few students that come out of our programs and walk right into amazing jobs. And so we're really excited about all of those pathways that we have for our students. Speaking of what happens after high school, we had College Week at El Diamante, 10 college presentations, along with the county having a college night with numerous opportunities for our minors to explore educational opportunities. And another one that's near and dear to the work that we're doing in the district is our partnership with our schools where we have our automatic admissions programs. And so Thursday of this past week, we had our automatic admissions college partnership night for our students and families. We had representatives from UC Merced, Fresno State, and Fresno Pacific to share information about their program. Now, parents, we have a pathway for your kids to walk right into these four-year institutions. And so really excited about this. After the presentation, students and parents had a chance to engage in conversations. And here, if you needed any more incentive, here's another one. During UC Merced's presentation, their representative highlighted that since our partnership began 2 years ago, we've had a VUSD student each year accepted into their BS to MD program, medical degree doctor program. They only take 12 students into this prestigious program each year. And through this program, they're admitted to the medical school after completing 4 years of undergraduate study at UC Merced. And I also want to mention there are scholarships and funds available for students that are in these pathways. and you're able to go into a UC or Cal State institution, which is very competitive. And so if you're a parent out there and listening to this, I hope you're talking to your kids and your counselors about how do I get involved in these pathways and these automatic admission programs, because they're a game changer for students looking to move to the next level. Continuing our spotlight, we have middle school water polo this year. Again, part of our expansion of ELOP, Extended Learning Opportunity Programs. They had an opportunity to work with a water polo clinic, former Olympian, USA Water Polo Hall of Fame inductee, Tony Asvado. I'm saying that name wrong. I met him 2 years ago when he did a clinic. And then also the boys water polo team traveled and they won the bronze. They were the bronze division champions at Clovis with a perfect 3-0 score. So love to see all of these opportunities for our students continue to enhance their learning. And then a great event. I had the opportunity to attend the other weekend, our very first flag football tournament. This year we held an exhibition tournament. All 27 elementary schools participated. And the final game was between Shannon Ranch and Hurley, with Hurley taking the championship this year. So congratulations to all the schools. And I just want to say for just a minute, what was so amazing about this event, of course, was the students knowing they practiced through Alevo, which is one of our after-school partners at the school sites. But this was the field out at Royal Oaks Elementary. I'm sure it has a name that I can't think of, Royal Oaks Field. That'll work. But on both sides of that field was lined with parents, families, dogs, all other sorts of things, tents. It was a huge event because it was a community event and an event with our parents. And so it was not only great seeing all our kids participate, but all the family that came to support this opportunity as well. So just a shout out to everybody that helped out and made that a great, successful day. And I know our kids, whether they made it to the championship or not, everybody got to play. I think it was 2 games. So it was just an amazing opportunity for our kids. Continue with that, our Loft events, our Leaders of Tomorrow, recently took place at our high school. These events allow students to connect with industry leaders, participate in interviews and conversations to understand their profession. So we have several we want to thank, leaders in our community, board member Megan K. Spear-Solano, as well as others participated in these events. You see the Academy of Law and Justice up here, Media Arts Academy, Academy of First Responders, Business and Finance Academy, and those are all, they might have wrapped up or there's still a few more left, but great opportunity for students early in their academic career to interact with people who are successful in their field and really see what does it take to move to that level. And at the same time, is this really what I want to do, right? Is this going to be my passion area and get to have that opportunity? I know I've said lots of my favorite tonight, but this really is kind of 2. So I have a lot of favorites, but one of the most enjoyable things I get to do is interact with students through my advisories. And we do these advisories multiple times a year, both in person and on Zoom. So we kicked it off. You'll see high school on here was in person, and then elementary and middle were on Zoom, but they'll also be in person as we move through. All of my advisories recently kicked off. Today was elementary and middle. And so it provides me an opportunity to interact with our students, along with our district leadership staff are involved in these meetings as well. And we discuss many topics. We talk to them about what's going well, what are things that we need to improve upon. And one of the topics we're discussing this year, especially with our middle and high school advisories, is letting them weigh in on what do we need to do as far as our cell phone policy. We want to make sure we get student voice in where we eventually go with that. And so that's been one of the topics. And so want to thank our students, but also parents for allowing them to be part of this group. And so looking forward to, and if you ever wonder, do I get authentic feedback? I can guarantee you I get authentic feedback. So moving on to our spotlight on teacher induction. Each September, our education support facilitates 8 kickoff meetings in the evening. A total of 300 new teachers and mentors attended the pre-induction and induction meetings, while 34 administrators and coaches participated in the administrative induction kickoff. And this is unique to Visalia Unified, where it allows us to help our staff become credentialed and all those things they need to do in their educational journey. And a lot of places, teachers have to go and find the way to do this on their own, outside of the scope of the school district. And so it's really a great thing for our employees that we have this opportunity. Spotlight for our ribbon cutting. For our transportation team, this past month, we opened the doors to their new building. This is going to allow them to have further staff development and growth for years. And so I want to thank everyone. I know it's a lot of work moving to a new facility, but it's really nice. And so for our routers and other folks, gives them a much more professional space to work in, and a space as well for our drivers and other folks between their routes to come rest and relax. And I know we're working on making sure we got TV, making sure we got nice furniture, and all of those things in there as well that are being worked on. So very nice facility, and looking forward to see that building utilized as we continue our work there. And then I'm going to give an update here in the next report on strategic plan and facilities, but obviously we kicked off our strategic plan, so very excited about that. I want to show just a short video. We had a student, Hunter Chow, I think, from Golden West High School Film Club or their class, put together a little recap video of the event. And so they did a great job. And so I want to show the video by Hunter at this time. People take away from the night excitement about the direction and the future of Visalia Unified. We've heard a lot tonight about actions and what the future has in store to build upon our strong foundation. And so I think there's a lot of excitement and energy within our district of what the next few years is going to bring.
I think most importantly about committing to a 5-year plan is really building a foundation of learning and not looking for quick fixes or quick wins, but really showing that we are committed to staying the course and building a strong foundation for all of our students.
And so thank you to Hunter for putting that together. And we had a great event. Thank you for everybody that attended. And then as well, of course, our facilities work is underway. I'll give an update on that in just a minute, so I won't spend any more time on that slide. Let me get, if you want to. It was, yeah, there we go. And then just a few other things that are occurring this time of year. Of course, we always like to say our observances that are happening in our schools and in community. We have National School Lunch Week in October, National School Bus Safety Week, also coming up in October, America's Safe School Week, Red Ribbon Week, and then also October was National Principal Month. And although we do some celebration for that in the spring, I do just want to take a moment to recognize that in October, and to all of our principals here, say thank you for what you do every day for leading our school sites, making sure we're keeping our students safe and secure every day, but most importantly, making sure we're living out our mission of every student learning every day. And so to all our principals in the audience, I'd like to give you a round of applause. Our spotlight on social media this month, several campaigns that we have, of course, continuing to remind our students and families about reporting but not reposting. When it comes to threats or concerns that you see, there are lots of ramifications for those things. And so we're continuing our efforts to educate our students, especially our middle school students, on all of these things. Hispanic Heritage Month, which we mentioned, Attendance Month. Also continuing in this month, we have Native American Day, High Five Friday, the launch of our strategic plan. And then we've also done other spotlights on social media around Bulldog Bound, our Link Learning, our strategic plan, fall break, in case you don't know, Monday and Tuesday. So we're excited about that. And that concludes our spotlight.
Any board comments?
Can I just make one comment? I went to the colleges, our partners, and what I thought was amazing at UC Merced, if your family makes up to $80,000, it's 4 years full ride at UC Merced. So I think it's really worth looking into these partnerships we have.
All right. And just to echo what you said about student advisories, I really think that it shows that commitment to improvement, because you ask students, they're going to tell you the truth, and they are sort of our end users. So I just think that's awesome that we continue to do those. All right. Superintendent Shrum, update on Visalia Unified Forward 2030, a community-driven blueprint for the future.
Thank you, President Gaby, board members, members of the community. This is just a quick update on where we are and kind of what's coming up next. And so we'll get that up. And obviously last week was a huge day. We launched our district community-driven blueprint for the future. So just want to give a couple of updates. Again, this is how we're going to make these commitments and beliefs become a reality throughout our district. You heard a lot in the event about some things along these lines happening, but in pockets, or maybe it's not cohesive all across the district. The point of a strategic plan is to take these things and actionize how we're going to make it happen with accountability and oversight from our Board of Education. And so how we make this foundation become the reality for our community. And so what I want to point out, you'll see some images there from our event. Wonderful community partners. We appreciate our students and others that contributed to everything from our floral arrangements to our entertainment to our student panel. And our students and everyone really got an opportunity to see what will be different when these actions become reality across our district. At the same time, this board is continuing to set performance outcome measures. Where do we want to be in 5 years related to academic and student social emotional outcomes? And these will drive the accountability within our district to make sure we're working each year to get there within the 5-year period. And we continue to set those. Those will also be reported on annually or biannually in a public board meeting to our board and community. So you can see how we're doing on reaching the goals the board has set. So here's kind of where we are in our strategic plan journey. As we enter this next phase, we'll be taking each action, working on building them out over a 5+ year period, going through different phases of researching, designing, implementing, monitoring, and continuously improving. And then this spring, we'll be communicating with the board and our community on when the different actions will take place. So the community will have a roadmap of, oh, okay, the action that says we're going to increase advanced learning opportunities at elementary schools. When is that going to be researched, designed, implemented, monitored, right? The community will see that timeline when we move into the spring. So those are some of the big next pieces that are coming up as far as the strategic plan. On the facilities plan, we have begun our community workshops. We've had 4 listening sessions so far, about 50 people in attendance. Last week, we launched our virtual session. So if you can't come in person, you can go to the website from our homepage, connect to this. You can watch the presentation. It's a little lengthy because there's a lot of information. So I encourage everyone, if you can't come in person, to watch it. We have a few more coming up. This Thursday, we'll be at La Jolla Middle School. Next week, we'll be at Ridgeview Middle School and Golden West High School the following week. And so still opportunity to come out in person or engage online. So we've had 120 views so far of our virtual presentation. Our survey feedback has resulted so far in over 100 thoughts and 180 ratings on the thought exchange of the survey. So the survey link is also there. We know our community is listening. Our website has had 10,000 visits with an increase of 2,000 visitors since we began our listening session and 910 comments or contributions for that. So again, we still have a few more in-person sessions to go. And then again, also the information is all available online. Where are we on our timeline? We're in the midst of our community workshops. We'll be bringing this information back to the board in a November workshop. And then come December, January, we'll be coming back to the board with action related around our short-term opportunities that you see in the plan. And then later in the spring, we'll be coming back with what we're hearing from the community as far as what do we need to think about for long-term. And then, of course, building out all of those things with much more specificity. So that's where we are with both of those plans. And so happy to answer any questions, but that concludes my report.
Any board questions, comments? All right. It is not an action item, information only, and thank you very much. All right. 4.3, elevating leadership, Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Leadership, Mark Thompson.
So good evening, Board President Gaby, Board Superintendent Schrum. This evening, Mr. Dillon will be joining me as well. So we will get the opportunity to present to you just how we continue to elevate leadership and invest in leadership in our district, both at the district and at the school site level. Our mission is every student learning every day. And that requires us to elevate and prioritize the development of district and site leadership. Last year, we shared with you that the Wallace Foundation showed in their reports that they had looked over 20 years of data that an effective school site leader will increase school-wide student achievement in ELA and math by 2.7 to 2.9 months of growth, respectively, every single year. So we know an effective principal affects student outcomes immediately. That's just to put that in context of a K-6 school at 3 months across, that's like 2 years of growth by the time they're through that school. So it does matter. Tonight, our agenda that we have is that we'll be looking at is leading up Visalia framework, leading a Visalia framework, aspiring principal pathway, UVA PLE partnership, that stands for University of Virginia Partnership in Leadership Education, student learning impact, and then teacher and school leader grant, and then our next steps. In this visual, which you've seen many times, you will see at the very top where it all begins. Ooh, this doesn't show in there. At the very top, it starts with you, the school board. In your theory of action, it states, therefore, the school board directs the superintendent to continually improve processes and systems rooted in research and guided by data that result in positive transformational student outcomes. What we will be sharing with you tonight is how we are developing leaders to intentionally improve processes and systems through shared leadership and continuous learning cycles that are focused on data in service of transforming student outcomes. Let's get started. We'll start off and ground ourselves in something we shared with you last year, which is our Leading in Visalia framework. This framework is a foundation of what we have identified as actions that an effective site leader does to transform student outcomes. Our administrators of school leadership, or ASLs, use this framework as a guide when planning professional learning, in their one-on-one meetings with site leaders, and to identify promising practices and areas for improvement. It also helps us as a district and school site leaders to have common language in conversations on what we're targeting as ideal leadership and ideal leadership moves. So this year, the team has worked to provide more detailed indicators of each Leading in Visalia action. So you had last year's actions where they were here, and you see in the bottom, now they've been built out. We are focused on being extremely intentional to cultivate and develop these actions and indicators. We continue to look at these to track our success, but also to increase our leadership capacity as we begin to master these skills, and also look at the ones that this is our starting point. What can we develop and continue to build on as we go forward? All this is based in the research from the Wallace Foundation to continue to grow our leaders and to give them a clear roadmap of what we are looking for. So that's one way we are taking care of our principals right now, right? Getting clear on what that looks like and what that job. But now let's talk for a moment about our principals of tomorrow. So we are working on developing the principals of tomorrow. Last year, we started an aspiring principal pathway, and this year we have expanded it. We currently have 2 cohorts, cohort 1 that started last year and cohort 2 that is starting this year, I believe in the next couple of weeks, with a total of 30 developing leaders. The last hiring season, 33% of our new appointments as principals or directors were pathway participants. We expect that number to increase as we move into our second year of implementation and we have more time to develop and grow our team. So we're very excited about that work. That is co-administrators are currently in positions that do get additional trainings to be prepared for the principalship. Now I want to turn our attention to UVA and our partnership in Leaders in Education. First, I want to say thank you for your commitment as a board to support leadership development through the UVA partnership. UVA provides transformative and tailored leadership development to increase the capacity of system and school teams to shape their own future and drive measurable, lasting improvements in system effectiveness and student learning, particularly in underserved students. This is so important, as President Gaby just mentioned earlier, it's not shortcutting it, right? When we develop in our leaders, that's a long-lasting commitment to growth and productivity year over in, as we know they keep applying those skills year after year and keep improving. Now, what I just shared with you with the UVA piece, this should sound very familiar. It is very similar to your theory of action that we mentioned just a couple slides earlier. Currently, we have 2 cohorts in this partnership. So roughly 64 participants or members are getting trained. So, and not only are they getting trained, so we have cohort 20 where we have 12 leaders, 6 district leaders, 6 site leaders. And in cohort 21, we have 13 leaders, 6 district leaders again, and 7 site leaders. But then you also see that number below where we have 18 and 21. There's also a time for teacher leaders to actually engage with us along with co-administrators. It's very exciting work. So really 64 have been directly impacted. But what's been wonderful is we've really worked on creating a PLC model for our principals and co-administrators. And so that work is cascading in those conversations and also intentionally in our general leadership sessions. What we're learning is also cascading into those meetings as well. So it is trickling down to everyone in our system. Now, so the UVA PLE, I just wanted to give you just a little background on this. If you look at the top, there's a purpose of transformation. And that is their starting point for our process. And it really creates that condition. So you have that starting point of the purpose of the transformation at the very top. And then you see it goes down. And you see on the left-hand side, it says transformation conditions and system big rocks. That's the district. That's something you've heard Mr. Shrum talk over and over again. The district is designed to set the conditions for schools to be successful. So that's that lane, that's that focus. On the right-hand side, you'll see there it says school big rocks. And those school big rocks, I'll bring those in a moment. That's where we're targeting at school sites. The big ideas that we want every site to focus on and to lean into. But underneath that, you'll see that line dotted below, right in the middle, it says school-specific purpose and 90-day plans. So while they have the big rock that is consistent across campuses, they actually utilize a specialized 90-day plan to actionalize what they're doing and to be very intentional to get the desired outcomes they are wanting. So wanted to share with you our district purpose statement with UVA PLE. And I'm going to read it to you. The purpose is to ignite the passion of leaders, empowering them as architects of systematic change, with a focus on revolutionizing outcomes for all students. We aim to catalyze a bold transformation in education by harnessing the power of data-informed instruction, fostering collaborative professional learning communities, and prioritizing professional growth through coaching. Why I wanted to read that to you is I hope you see it's very aspirational. It's not trying to hit the midline. It's trying to say we want to go all the way and we want to do it right, and we're committed to quality. But you might ask the question, that's nice. And that is consistent with our mission and vision statement and theory of action. But how do you implement that? So let's talk about that for a moment. With UVA PLE partnership, they've provided us with training and support around effective school site coaching visits. Over the past 2 years, in my quarterly reports, I have been providing you with how many coaching visits ASLs are providing. Last year was over 400 of them. But I think many of you asked the question, well, that's great, but are they effective? Are they getting outcomes? And why I want to bring this to you and show you these documents is the ASLs have received in-depth training on having intentional school site coaching visits, which has and continues to improve the consistency and the effectiveness of how school sites are moving student improvement forward. It's intentional, targeted targeted questioning, a lot of preparing beforehand. So that way, when they're sitting together, there's a stream of thinking that's happening, not just we're just sitting and talking, which has been very important, ultimately focused and driven to desired outcomes that the principal is working on and going towards. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we do have big rocks. Purpose of big rocks is to have alignment, but it's also they're big enough so that school sites have autonomy so that they can target that rock in different ways. There's no surprise here. These are things we've been talking about for the past couple years. Tier 1 embedded practices. You might ask the question, what is a Tier 1 embedded practice? Tier 1 embedded practices have been outlined through research based on effective teaching practices in the classroom to optimize engagement of students and ensuring that students are getting the best education possible. I will give you one, for example. One is to engage students in every activity, the best you can, to engage in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. What we find many times in classrooms is students are required to listen. And we hope they're listening. And we think they're listening. But we can't always determine that because they're not producing outputs like writing and talking. So really trying to be intentional about hitting all four of them. Obviously in math, they're still reading in there as well, but computation could be the other word that you put in there, but being very intentional in those areas. And professional learning communities, I know you guys are committed to how valuable that is in your theory of action, but really that's about creating teacher efficacy, which means teachers' ownership of looking at students' data, coming together as a team of professionals and saying, what are areas that we can help our students do better? And how can we provide a targeted learning lesson to improve maybe students that are not quite getting it or almost there, and reteaching that if needed. The last thing is also to relook at your own Tier 1 teaching and adjust it as you see fit to support your students to ensure that they're getting optimal learning. Next, again, we talk about this intentionality. 90-day plans serve as a roadmap that provides clarity for specific priorities and actions that are most important during the next 90 days. 90 days, half a year. They would do a second one for the second 90 days. The plan will help ensure to focus on all stakeholders towards an aligned understanding of implementation and progress of our school's transformation initiatives. Each 90-day plan has thought-provoking steps that require site leadership teams to think through their entire plan in order to get their declared desired outcomes. So you'll see there's different elements. Purpose statement, as you kind of saw our district one, I'm going to share a school site one here in just a moment, but goals, and the goals are rooted in previous data. So it's not they're just randomly picking a goal. They have to do research on their data and what is their data telling them, and then creating that. Also doing a root cause analysis. Many of you are familiar with the 5 whys or a fishbone, but they do a root cause analysis. Then they go into goals and indicators, metrics with actions and progress indicators. And why I wanted to share all that is it's nice to have actions, but you got to have actions that drive to desired outcomes. If not, they're just actions. And that's work that we've been working on and finding those indicators along the way. Here's an example of a purpose statement of a school site. We have many UVA principals in this room and they have amazing purpose statements, but I did want to share this one from El Diamante. El Diamante students deserve nothing short of high quality education that equips them with the skills, knowledge, and ability to excel in college and in their careers. El Diamante make progress towards closing the achievement gap by fueling teacher efficacy and instilling culture of learning. Empowering educators through instructional coaching with the necessary tools, resources, and unwavering support will create an environment where all students can thrive academically and personally. This is a very clear vision for an ideal learning environment. What I love even more, I don't even have the most updated one. You know why? Because they're working on a shared leadership model that they've actually brought it back to their teachers. They've readjusted it again, and they brought it back together again. And that's the exciting work is that this is not done in isolation, but a continual conversation to continue to move the work forward. But I want to share, this is nice, right? It's aspirational. Great. Good job. They wrote something. That's awesome. But here's the power of what UVA and what the work that we're doing. In that previous slide, the 90-day plan had steps for leadership teams to do in order to create a data-driven plan with progress indicators that drive to a desired outcome. An example of this at LD is one of their big rocks is Tier 1 embedded practices. In that, they have specific language about academic language in all their classes. So the LD leadership team has developed a professional learning plan for staff to engage in over the next 90 days, as well as what they call partnering meetings, where they partner up with teachers specifically on those strategies to how can they teach them in their classes. Come back in, let's talk about it, let's do this, let's model it. What do you need to move forward in this area? Which is great. But the next level is to have progress indicators, monitoring if we're actually doing this and getting data so then the team knows how they continue to move this work forward. Because ultimately their desired outcome, as they have stated, is that teachers close the achievement gap by all of them using consistent Tier 1 embedded practices in every classroom every day. So again, you see the two things, aspirational with a plan to actually get there. And that's something I know sounds like, yeah, that makes total sense, but it is not as easy as it sounds. Finally, as I wrap up here, I wanted to share, so we talk about empowering leaders. And I want to share with you this idea of a learning lab concept, because a 90-day plan gives you the technical, it gives you the process, it's a system, but we've got to change some of our thinking a bit. So a learning lab concept is this: to empower school leaders to implement innovative systems and processes to revitalize student outcomes, while the core change team, it's a small group of district administrators that are supporting the school sites in this work, will support, learn from, and multiply effective systems and processes. Where this differs from in the past is many times what we would do is we would from the top, look at research and dictate, this is where we're going and this is what we're doing. And then school sites were left to figure those things out. I'm not going to tell you we've arrived because we still are working through many of those processes. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you we've got this all dialed in, but we are intentionally focusing on how do we change our mindsets at the district to be more of a learning lab focus for these targeted school sites. The shift of thinking is about how do we support with resources, with additional supports, what we need. But the biggest piece that we haven't always talked about is learn from. Again, we're still working on that. But how do we learn from the practitioners that are in the field that are actually doing the work every day? And then our job is to multiply what they're doing that are best practices into providing other leaders, other schools to focus into that area. So that is a shift in the work that we're doing, but that is a shift that is happening and that we're working on regularly. Again, we're not there. It's a process, it's a tool, it's a muscle for us to continue to learn and build to stand in that promise. So last thing I want to share with you is promising practices. So from this work, what are we seeing? What are we seeing from our UVA principals, but also all of our principals, is really a focus and a commitment on shared leadership mindset and processes, bringing teachers along in the journey and being an active member, things like guiding coalitions, working together so that way there's shared leadership, shared decision-making, and people, and as a team working forward. Second is school site development systems on coaching and partnering staff on focus areas and indicators. So not leaving it up for chance, but actually intentionally planning, coaching, and partnering and creating that time and space for it to happen regularly. I know I was just at another high school site and they were sharing that 150 feedback sessions has happened this year already on a campus that maybe in the past a handful were done in a year. So just very exciting work because it's intentional and targeted. Data-driven instruction systems. This is a very meticulous process that many teams are delving into that helps them really dial in on the data and in turn provide better outcomes for our students. And then the last but not least is that intentional actions plus progress indicators equal desired outcomes, really driving home to that desired outcome, not just doing actions and hoping it gets there, but really driving it home. Now I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Dillon to wrap us up.
Okay. So, one of the things that Assistant Superintendent Thompson mentioned a few times was, okay, that sounds great, but what, right? Like, show me the proof in the pudding, if you will. So one of the things that we want to make sure we're also sharing with you is ultimately, how does all of this work, as we've seen in visuals and also comments and discussion by this board, is how do we get this ultimately down to the classroom to where we're seeing change with student learning? And so I want to share just a little bit of the initial data coming out of year one. So I pulled just a couple examples from our first 6 schools who have completed their first year in the Partnership for Leadership in Education program with the University of Virginia. So each of these schools, just to give a little context, each of these schools established goals and desired outcomes as a part of their 90-day plan development. You heard discussion about like big rocks, right? So big rocks were the focus to move the work towards the goals. Some of the goals I'm sharing up here are directly from that. Actually, should I say all of the goals are directly from that? These are not all of their goals, though. Each school site had anywhere from 2 to 4 goals. I just picked one to kind of give you an idea of the progress they're made. The other thing I'll share with you is not every school met every goal. We know that some of these things take time, right? To truly transform practices that happen in the classroom, that's a big shift. And we truly know like that's where the magic happens. And so just as an example, though, so you can kind of get an idea of what our schools were doing and what our students experienced. Crowley, for example, one of their focuses was on increasing student ELA proficiency, and they were able to move 5 percentage points over this past year compared to the previous year, which is an amazing thing. Golden Oak was focusing on reducing the achievement gap for their English language learners, and were able to move the proficiency for English learners meeting or exceeding standard in ELA by 10%. Goshen focused on both ELA and math in a specific goal and saw increases in student proficiency of 4% and 2% respectively between year 22-23 to 23-24. And then Washington also increased student ELA proficiency by 5% between those years, coming out of their first year of working through that partnership. And then for our secondary school side, definitely some big cultural shifts in terms of classroom practices. And so Divisadero really wanted to focus on improving student discourse and inquiry, and did so by focusing on ensuring that classrooms were employing strategies that displayed student learning through speaking. You heard Superintendent Thompson just talk about not just listening, but listening, speaking, reading, writing. And that was an intentional focus. And so we're able to demonstrate more than 80% of those classrooms employing those strategies through repeated walkthrough tools that measure that. And then finally, Golden West High School was able to improve instructional practices by making a commitment to coach and support and monitor the posting of learning intentions and success criteria in student-friendly, accessible language, and ultimately get to that place where they had that across 100% of their classrooms. So again, this is not necessarily representative of every goal, nor is it reflective of every goal. But I do want to give you just a taste of some of those successes and those early wins in implementation. As we just mentioned, those are our first 6 schools. We this year have 13 schools that are continuing that. These 6 schools and obviously the other 7 that we've shared about previously. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, how are we paying for this? How does this work? Because as you're hearing things, you're probably, racking up dollar signs in your mind. So we last year, with support from Dr. Serena Arias, Robin Karina Hara, they were able to help support in writing a grant in partnership with Tulare County Office of Education, specifically the Teacher and School Leader Grant. We are one of a number of LEAs across the nation receiving that federal grant from the U.S. Department of Education. It is a multi-million-dollar grant, and it is a 3-year grant. So this past year was year 1. We're just now entering into year 2, and we still have a coming year 3. I will let you know that those grant funds, things are different in election years. And so those grant funds were cut by 27% by the U.S. Department of Ed for year 2. However, through our partnership with TCOE, they are working to shift money from the grant allocated to TCOE to VUSD as the full scope of the grant project is being implemented in our district. And so we appreciate that ongoing commitment to our success and the success of our teachers, our principals, our students. I want to just kind of break down a little bit for you. So our one-time funds were used to help launch our initial partnership with UVA PLE. But since then, the Teacher and School Leader Grant has funded really the entirety of our partnership going forward. That includes our contracts, the University of Virginia, PLE, complete funding for all of the the 64 teachers, school and district leaders that were mentioned who are participating in the formal training and workshops as are part of that program, which represents 13 schools across our district. In addition, the Teacher and School Leader Grant has funded the development implementation of our Aspiring Principal Pathway program that was described, as well as some strategic recruitment efforts and considerable improvements in our human capital management system, all of which are a part of our grant-funded project. So as we think about how we go forward from here, I do want to kind of forecast and give you a little bit of an idea of where we're headed in each of these respective areas. So, what was mentioned earlier is the development and then the initial implementation of these last couple of years of our Leading in Visalia framework with our school administrators. Next steps in that area include the expansion of that framework to clarify effective leadership performance across all classifications of leadership in the district, which is a part of our strategic plan work. And so you'll see us begin to leverage and scale initial efforts that have been launched in this regard as we go forward, and being very intentional, methodical, and strategic in that planning to really scale out those effective practices for our classified management, for our teacher leaders, for other classified leaders as we move forward. As far as leadership pathways go, as Superintendent Thompson shared, we started with an initial cohort for our Aspiring Principals pathway last year. We have a second cohort this year. And as we continue to move forward, we've also recognized the need for pathway development on a broader scale. It's one of the reasons why we've included that in the strategic plan actions that the board adopted. And so part of our commitment is to be intentional about using similar data and predictive analytics to drive ongoing pathway development, like we did when we saw that we needed to build out a deeper bench for prospective principals. And then finally, as we move forward in our partnership with University of Virginia, our first two cohorts continue to charge ahead in their journey, and we've intentionally sought to learn from their actions. And our desire, obviously, is to scale that success, which does include expanding training and implementation of promising and effective practices, like the use of 90-day plans, like data-driven instruction. The next steps include considering the enlisting of a third cohort of school and district leaders to participate in University of Virginia's cohort 22. And that we anticipate beginning next spring, again, utilizing the grant funding that I mentioned just a minute ago to help fund these really initial efforts to build capacity and sustainability for leadership and effective practice going forward beyond the lifetime of that funding source. At this time, that concludes our report to the board. We would happily take any questions you may have.
Any board questions? Go ahead.
Actually, I have a comment. I've been out and about visiting schools, and after about my third visit, I started asking more intentional questions. So I was at Conyer, and I asked Principal Martinez Ramirez, what is your guiding coalition focusing on? And her whole face lit up and was talking about what they're focusing on, what they're doing in PLCs. So then that motivated me to be even more intentional. So I was with Mr. Thompson, and we went first to Valley Oak and then to Golden West, my old stomping grounds. And so I asked Principal Franco, I said, what is your guiding coalition focusing on? And he started talking about embedded practices. He started talking about the big rocks, the PLCs, what's happening in the PLCs with math and ELA, laser focus. Then I go to Golden West, same language and consistency. Here's what our guiding coalition is working on. We're working on our embedded practices. Principal Lambert showed me his 90-day plan. I also saw some of Principal Franco's 90-day plan. So there's consistency across the district. So I want to say the ASLs, you're seeing fruit. I see fruit of your work. It's amazing when people are commenting in the district, well, you know, why isn't this board more concerned about our test scores? And maybe they weren't the best this last time, but this board knows where we're going. This board is proud of the work that you guys are doing. And I just want to say thank you.
Board comments? One comment, and I think Mr. Thompson mentioned, you know, that it's a change in mindset, and I appreciate that culture of learning. And maybe, like, I don't know if it's at our next study session or something that we can also talk about, like, how as a board do we set the conditions for innovation? Because, you know, somebody much smarter than me came up with the phrase of every best practice was once an innovative practice. But with that, when you try new things, sometimes you have to course correct. I mean, a lot of times they go well. Sometimes, like, that's the beauty of trying new things. And if we're really looking at revolutionizing outcomes and bold transformation, those are powerful words. And so, like, how do we create and set those conditions as a board that allows people to feel safe to innovate and to say, my 90-day plan, I'm 45 days in, it's not going well, I'm going to change course. And so just kind of a general comment on, you know, what we can do to also support that. But thank you very much for your work on this. All right. General public comment. General public comment on any school-related topic may be heard at this time. The board asks that any public comment on any item listed on tonight's agenda be addressed at the time the item comes up for discussion by the board. To comply with the Brown Act, California's open public meeting law, board discussion is limited to items on the agenda. Therefore, when receiving public comment for items not on the agenda, the board's role is limited to receiving such comments, and the board may not engage in dialogue with the public. The board thanks the public for its participation in public comment and understanding of the board's responsibilities. Pursuant to board policy, the board will limit individual comments to no more than 3 minutes and individual topics to 20 minutes. It is recommended you begin your comments by stating your name. I do have 2 green forms. The first one was from Sarah White. If you'd like to come up.
Okay. Hello. Good evening. My name is Sarah White. I'm with Transportation Department. Excuse me. So, VUSD and Board of Trustees, we are writing to express our deep appreciation for Luis Espinoza, Director of Transportation. Before Luis came on board, our department didn't have much direction or leadership. It felt like just a job with no real sense of purpose. Transportation went through several directors prior to Luis that didn't move transportation forward. If you were to ask any of us how how we feel about our past directors or management team, there would be no positive feelings. Bus drivers and aides rarely received any professional training. We walked on eggshells, morale was always very low, and we had no confidence in the future of our job. Luis Espinoza brought leadership that has been essential in driving our transportation team to success, while also creating a workplace that is both engaging and encouraging. Since he started, everything had changed for the better. Luis had given us structure and created an environment where we feel appreciated and motivated. Hold on. He brought the core values of workplace to life. Luis is prime example of the 6 domains of leadership: responsible, inspirational, supportive, personal, relational, and contextual. He holds himself accountable for the team's success and well-being, as well as for any hiccups transportation faced along the way to our success. By taking responsibility for both our achievements and challenges, his leadership style inspired everyone to perform at their best, while also ensuring that we always felt valued. Luis would sit in the driver's lounge every morning. He greeted all employees with a positive good morning. It is always said that most likely bus drivers are the first person to see a student in the morning, the first person to say good morning to them or help shine a positive light on their day. Luis did that for the transportation team. Luis is incredibly supportive. He made it clear that no matter the time or circumstance, we could approach him with any need or concern. Whether we required new resources, training, or simply advice, he was always available. Luis was ready to help advocate for us, something transportation never experienced with any other management in charge before. Luis didn't just manage from a distance. He got involved and consistently did what was best for the transportation team. Luis held driver meetings every month. These meetings were full of knowledge. He would quiz us on school bus laws, keeping our minds refreshed. Luis made sure that we were all engaged. We worked as a teams and created an environment that had drivers excited to be here. Luis even arranged much needed mountain training for the transportation team with 2 other instructors and himself. At least 20 bus drivers were able to receive some of the most valuable training that day. This is something that would have happened without his effort. All bus drivers were excited as we looked forward to more trainings Luis wanted to put together for us. Luis built strong, meaningful relationships with every member of the transportation team. He never acted like he was above us. Instead, he led by example, making himself approachable, humble, and always willing to listen, whether through shared jokes during meetings or genuine conversations. Luis created an environment where we all felt comfortable and respected. His relational and contextual leadership were also impressive. Luis has many years of experience as a bus driver, a trainer, and student transportation.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop it, but can you leave that with us? So what you wrote.
What was that?
I'm sorry, I have to stop it for the time, but can you leave what you wrote with us
Yes.
or a copy of
Yes,
it?
I can.
All right, thank you.
I'll have to print out another one.
Okay, or we can make a copy for you
Yeah.
even.
All right, perfect.
Miss Andrew in the back can.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Rhoda Peterson. I think I read that right. Okay. No? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Children, so I should be home cooking dinner, but I'm here instead because I've tried to talk to several people in the Unified School District and no one would listen. They told me to come here, so here I am. Okay, I'm here to address the bathroom problems that we're having at all of the schools in our district. Our children are not safe. Our children cannot even use the restroom. You wonder why test scores are down? Well, maybe it's because they're not in a safe environment. Sometimes school is the only safe environment children have because they don't have that at home, unfortunately. And my child I've had 2 children going to Valley Oak for 4 years. Neither one of them could use the restroom. My son was dragged and bullied across the blacktop. He didn't want to go to regular high school because he said, Mom, if this is the way high school is going to be like, I don't want to go. I took him to another school. He's graduated at 16, top 10 in California. My children are very good boys and very smart. My other son actually went to use the restroom. He had never used, that was the second time he ever used the restroom because he said that people were doing drugs in there and they would threaten him when he would leave. That if he told that he would get in snitches get stitches, which is ridiculous. So he never used the restrooms. He would hold his urine and his bowel movements until he got home. Then he said, one day I got a call from the school, Miss Contreras. She said that there was some kids that were teasing my son, saying that they saw a picture of his private parts. She said that she was going to do an investigation and that she would get back to me. So apparently she did an investigation. She called me and she told me that, oh, they were just joking. They were just messing around with him. It didn't happen. And we're going to move on from here. So my son got home and that's when he started to tell me how he never used the restroom. And he told me, Mom, I'm sorry for using the restroom, but I had to go so bad that I was going to pee my pants. Well, in that time, I was thinking, well, you know what? That's crazy because if you've never used the restroom, this is the second time you used the restroom. Then I go, is this little girl your friend? Did she know that you had used the restroom? And he's like, no, Mom. So I called the school. I left messages. No one would return my call. So finally, I called the Visalia Police Department. I talked to the YDO. I gave him the information of the day that my son used the restroom. Sure enough, he pulled the cameras. This young man walked in behind my son. He had put his phone underneath the bathroom stall, taking a picture of my son's private. They pulled him in. The pictures were on his phone, and the pictures were also posted to his Snapchat for all of his friends and followers to see. That is child pornography. My son had to tough through going to school for the rest of the year with all these kids that had seen his private parts. It's not okay. On the Visalia Problems, they had posted something about the teacher. It's happened to several children, not just mine. Lots of students complain that they cannot use the restrooms at their junior highs and their high schools. The teachers can't even stop fights. They're fighting, they're having sex, they're doing drugs, they're vaping THC, and it's not okay. My son got offered drugs. He turned the kid in. He was threatened for the rest of the year that he was going to be jumped for doing the right thing. These kids aren't telling the truth of what's going on because they're afraid. And then they don't want parents to come forward because then they get in trouble at school with the students because everybody somehow knew that my son was the one who had went and turned the young man in.
Okay, I apologize. I hate to cut you off, but I do know they'll follow up with you and we'll
Thank
get
you.
more information. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, consent item. Would any board member like to pull any item from the consent agenda? All right, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So approved. I'm so moved. Sorry.
Second.
Okay, on a motion by board member Gamoyen and a second by board member Villegas.
Motion passes with Board Rep voting yes, 7-0.
Okay. Oh, our best report is our student report. Ms. Miranda Velasquez from VTech.
Thank you, Ms. Gabby. Starting off is El Diamante. El Diamante drama production of The Badger is currently playing in the El Diamante Theater. The play follows the story of 5 women who work in a factory during World War II. The El Diamante Media Arts Academy is hosting a haunted house the last weekend in October and on Halloween. The event will showcase the talent of students in set building, special effects, makeup, and costume design. The El Diamante Choir Ball concert will be October 8th. Plans for the Battle for the Saddle are underway with the NDMA band, El Diamante clubs, dance, cheer, and football teams working with ASB for a fun and spirited week for dress-up days and activities the week of October 28th through November 1st. Next up is Golden West. On September 23rd, Golden West High School announced their top 10 homecoming nominees and treated them to a fun and exciting dinner. They also participated in interviews showcasing their talents and personalities as part of the homecoming festivities. On September 30th, Golden West hosted its annual homecoming carnival, bringing the school together for a day filled with fun, games, and school spirit. On October 3rd and 4th, Golden West celebrated Homecoming Week with a Pixar-themed extravaganza where students enjoyed noontime activities and embraced the fun-filled atmosphere leading up to the big event. On October 4th, Golden West held exciting homecoming rally where the top 10 nominees took the spotlight in a rally that truly set the stage for homecoming night. Next at Mount Whitney. On September 27, 2024, Mount Whitney crowned its 2024 Homecoming King and Queen in a night filled with school spirit, and celebration. Looking ahead, the Mount Whitney Fall Choir Concert will take place on October 7th at L.J. Williams Theater. Following that, ASB will host a pink out game against El Diamante on October 11th, raising awareness and showing support for breast cancer awareness. The Mount Whitney Band Review is set for October 12th at the Mineral King Bowl, showcasing talented performances. Later in the month, the orchestra spring concert will be held on October 17th at L.J. Williams Theater. In preparation for Cowhide, ASB has chosen a Back to the Future theme, celebrating both the rich tradition of the past and the excitement of the future, with creative themed activities for each day of the week. Next is Redwood. Redwood is currently hosting their homecoming week. Their rally was Monday and they announced the top 5 King and Queen nominees. They have a full week of activities ahead. The fall play The History of Dating happened this weekend. It was a spoofy show about the insane history of dating. The student performers did a great job. Future Businesses Leaders of America, also known as FBLA, hosted the California Central Section Officer and Advisor Training Day on September 28th at Redwood High School. They had over 200 FBLA members and advisors from across the valley in attendance to develop their leadership and receive training and materials from the state level. Next is Sequoia. On September 17th, Sequoia had 16 presenters on campus for Mountaineer Time. Students could choose who they wanted to see based on their interests. On September 26th, Sequoia attended Tulare County Office of Education Trades Day at the Porterville Fairgrounds. Approximately 20 students learned about career opportunities in the construction, engineering, and heavy equipment fields. Also, on September 26th, in honor of National Pancake Day, free pancakes were served to all Sequoia students who arrived early. The Sequoia Excel program has been holding regular FAFSA workshops for our students. Next up is VCIS. On September 26, VCIS attended the Tulare County Office of Education's Trades Day at the Porterville Fairgrounds. Students were introduced to the industry, career opportunities in construction, heavy equipment, engineering, and other skilled grades. VCIS staff and students joined in the USD Heart Wall Challenge, posting positive messages of love over loneliness during Suicide Prevention Week. Over 200 students participated in this positive challenge. Next is BTEC. BTEC had great showing at the Tulare County Fair, with 1/4 of their students population showing over 100 animals. BTEC held their annual Harvest Festival week. ASB led dress up and a variety of activities that led to the crowning of Evita King and Queen at the Scholarship Foundation's pancake breakfast. VTEC's FFA collaborated with the Scholarship Foundation with leading the day where there were hay rides, pumpkin and plant sales, face painting, and auctioning of items to support their students. VTEC is looking forward to the National Red Ribbon Week, where ASB will have a variety of activities to engage students. And finally, I am excited to introduce a new element to our monthly school board report. As you know, the school district has recently announced the strategic plan for our school district, and Superintendent Shrum wants to make sure that the student voice is a very active part of this process. My fellow student board representatives and I are part of this larger student advisory group that is made up of a very diverse group of students from all of our school sites. So we will be discussing topics that are important to our education and future. Currently, our USAV team is focusing on researching and exploring topics related to cell usage phone policies. Our goal is to provide valuable insights that will shape the future of Visalia Unified School District. Over the next few months, during the student report section of these meetings, we will share short summaries highlighting the process and findings from our work. We look forward to keeping you updated on our efforts.
Thank you. And we definitely look forward to that and hearing, your thoughts. And I will continue down the line here. Board Member Villegas.
Thank you, President Gaby. I just wanted to highlight one quick thing. Able to attend a lot of events that many of my fellow board members were at. A few months ago, the state of California had recently voted to recognize Hmong American Day, I think May 14th. And as we were going through some of our kind of social media posts for the months and observances, I noted that I don't believe we have a resolution recognizing Filipino History Month, which is in the month of October, and recognizing we have a fairly large Filipino population and API population in the district. I also wanted to flag that for our team to see if that is something we could add to our list of observances in the future in order to honor our Filipino community here in Visalia. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Odo.
Yeah, a couple quick things. Was able to attend a couple schools in the past month, Mount Whitney High School and Valley Oak Middle School. Saw examples there of co-teaching in classrooms, ranging from initial steps, teachers working together, to some very mature work there that was good to see. It's good to see that folks are taking that approach seriously in support of our special ed kids and mainstream kids. Also was able to make a quick visit to the Compass program and also attended the transportation building ribbon cutting. That building's been a long time coming, so it was good to see it in the flesh, and it looks great. Mr. Belt and I cooked hamburgers at the Ed Foundation Band Showcase last night. And if you saw that pall of smoke over the, no pun intended, Mr. Belt, pall of smoke over the field, that was us doing that, trying to make sure we got all the burgers cooked. Also attended 2 of the facilities planning community meetings over the past month. I was able to attend one at Mount Whitney and also one at Goshen, and I'll be at La Jolla later this week as well. Those are good meetings, well put together, lightly attended, but the feedback we're getting there is thoughtful, and it's really very useful for us to hear. So if anyone in the community here in the room has a desire to participate by attending, by all means do so. It's a quick hour. There are lots of interesting approaches being taken to or presented to short and long-term facility planning, things that I think warrant hearing and also a bit of work to understand, because they really are innovative and have the potential to change the way that we look at balancing kid loads and providing equal opportunity for students in every aspect of school life across the community. So a thumbs up on the work being done there, and also encouragement for folks to get out and get involved in that. A couple school visits later this week, Creekside and also Sequoia High School, and looking forward to those as well. That's it.
Thank you. Board Member Goyen.
I already kind of gave my report, so I'm going to say no report.
Board Member Case Solano.
Apologize. I have a little bit of a long report. I know no one wants to hear me talk that long, so I'm going to get through this. So I went to the Tulare County Fair and I just wanted to do, I didn't see any ribbons on them and I apologize if I missed them, but my favorite, and I know I'm not a judge, was the Golden West pygmy goats. They were very, very, very cute. So again, if I missed the ribbon, I apologize, but if I were the judge, that would have been my blue ribbon. I did attend the Loft event. As was said earlier, I always enjoy doing this event. Thank you so much to our career and college and career ready staff for putting this together, for the students who come very prepared, asking questions. I just really, really enjoy it. And so I had a blast doing that with the Law and Justice Academy at Redwood. I also did some site visits with some fellow board members at Conyer, Mount Whitney. It was really great to see some of the modernization in the science wing at Mount Whitney. It looks really, really great. And it was really good to see that. The state of the district, wow, that was quite the event. I was not prepared for what Superintendent Trum and everyone else, I'm sure, I can't even imagine how many people went into putting on that event. So thank you all so much. It really was quite fabulous. I'm going to shout out my daughter, Paloma, because she got an award at Mountain View. So I did get to go to an assembly there. So thank you, Ms. Gendron, for that. It was a wonderful assembly. And for the teachers who wrote a little blurb about each student that we then got to keep. It was very nice. So thank you for that. The band showcase, the smoke, the entertainment, the cheerleading, the dancing. Again, quite an event. Felt so lucky to go to that. I just wanted to say happy fall break. And if you are looking for something to do, I'm always looking for something to do with my kiddos. For small kiddos, I don't really think it's appropriate for high school kiddos, but in Hanford, it's called the Children's Storybook Garden and Museum. I'm not sure how many people have been there. It's really not that far. It's adorable. They have all these different little houses that are kind of, the kids can go in and play in them, and they are around different books. So it's a really cute little thing. It's open on Mondays in the morning and in the rest of the week in the afternoon. It's unfortunately closed on Sundays, but is open on Saturdays. I would highly recommend checking it out. And then this Friday at the Fox Theater, there is a free showing of Beetlejuice. But more importantly, on November 1st, there is a free showing of The Lord of the Rings. It's been a long time since I've been able to see that movie in the movie theaters. And so for any of my fellow fantasy lovers out there, I doubt they're going to show us the extended version, but one can hope.
Thank you. And Board Member Belt.
Thank you, President Gaby. That's pretty amazing. One highlight that I wanted to bring up in the consent agenda that we passed through rather rapidly because there's lots in there was an amazing update or renewal of the modern automotive technology software and techs purchase for 3 of our high schools. I want people to know we continue to make investment in the hands-on relating of education into what kind of things they can actually do in the real world. That's been highlighted by the things that we do with the CTE program, the Leaders of Tomorrow events that I've been actually favored to go to 4 of them in the last couple of weeks, and another one later this week. The STRONG, that's the sports therapy, rehab, orthopedics, and neuromuscular gains at LD last week. First responders at Golden West, Health Sciences Academy this morning at Mount Whitney, and then, of course, featuring Esquire, Mrs. Casper Salerno next to me here, the Law and Justice Academy at Redwood. 3 of the facility plans, community meetings I've been able to attend, and in unusual places, Linnell Camp, as well as Ivanhoe and Mount Whitney. And as we said earlier, they may be low in numbers, but we are getting a lot of input and feedback. Visits I want to highlight, I'm still on target to visit all 42 of your campuses. I look at all of our principals here. I'll be there sooner or later this school year. But I appreciate Mrs. Jorgensen, Mr. Yanis, and Mr. Merrill Keene. That's Riverway, Divisadero, Mount Whitney. in that order that hosted us to come and kind of crash into their morning. And then, of course, homecomings have been amazing. I was able to attend 3 out of the 4 because I couldn't figure out how to do both Golden West and Redwood at the same time. But I want to highlight our activities directors, who are kind of the tip of the spear on those things, are doing an amazing job of making them healthy, wholesome, exciting. And I also know there's some other people in the district that are giving some input, and as well as all of you principals. Thank you so much for having some very exciting, not always the best scoring perhaps, but still events that students will remember maybe as long as 50 years, like my high school reunion that I just had. And that's my report this evening.
Thank you. Board Clerk Naylor?
I'm going to say no report because everybody else said what I was going to say. Thank you.
And yes, I think we covered it, or I covered it in the reports before this. But again, thank you for the State of the District plan. And of course, to Mr. DeMeo and Ms. Serrato for emceeing that event. I know a lot of work went into it, but I think just us declaring where we seek to go was just a very cool moment. And I appreciate all that went into that. And now the fun begins. All right, Superintendent Schrum.
All right, thank you. And yes, again, excited about that event. Thank you to everyone that poured into that. And as President Gaby said, really being transparent with our community about where we want to go in the next 5 years and what those outcomes are going to be. Also wanted to make just a quick statement tonight concerning one of the ballot items, just for information only, that folks will be voting on, and that has to do with Proposition 2, which is the California Legislature's bond for repair, upgrade, and construction of K through 12 public schools, community colleges, and career tech programs. So had the question asked a lot about, well, what would that mean potentially for Visalia Unified? And so a couple of things I just want to mention just for our community's information and knowledge. We would be in line for $29.7 million in project reimbursements, an additional $25.3 million in upcoming projects for a total of $55 million. So that's just what stands to happen. Obviously voters will make their own choice, but I did just want to say what that would mean potentially for Visalia Unified were that bond to occur. And of course, without that, those reimbursements would not happen, for those projects and upcoming things. And another question I get asked a lot is, what might that mean if I'm a taxpayer? So unlike a bond, a local community might pass that would have an impact on property, this works a little bit differently, and it would become basically for the state what's called a debt service payment. So the state would use current state taxes from income, sales, that sort of thing to repay the debt for the bond, but they would have to prioritize it ahead of other investments. So when the state is cutting, it would have to cut more to afford the new debt that the bond would take on. So a couple of things for people to consider. What would be in line for Visalia as far as $55 million in reimbursements and other pieces, but then also how that might impact the state taking on new debt. So just wanted to give that food for thought as people think about what decisions they're going to make on the November ballot. That concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, administrative panel recommendations, recommended reinstatements. May I have a motion to approve the recommended reinstatements?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Villegas and a second by Board Member Gamoyan.
Student Board Rep abstains. Motion passes unanimously 7-0.
All right, recommended expulsions. May I have a motion to approve the recommended expulsions?
I'll motion.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Case-Beer-Solino and a second by Board Member Odo, call for a vote.
Student Board Rep abstains. Motion passes 7-0.
All right, and recommended continued expulsions. May I have a motion to approve the recommended review continued expulsions?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Case-Beer-Solino and a second by Board Member Naylor, call for a vote.
Student Board Rep abstains. Motion passes unanimously 7-0.
Okay, I will now open the public hearing for the public hearing and resolution on sufficiency of instructional materials. I will now open the public hearing to allow for public comment and Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Leadership, Mark Thompson.
Good evening, Board President again, and board members and Superintendent Schrum. So in this item, to be eligible to receive instructional material funds, the governing board must hold an annual public hearing and adopt a resolution stating whether each student in the district has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials in specified subject. These materials are aligned with the academic content standards and are consistent with the curriculum frameworks adopted by the State Board of Education. The selected subjects include mathematics, science, history, social science, English language arts, including English language development component of an adopted program. On behalf of the teaching and learning team, I certify that VUSD has met all requirements for sufficiency of instructional materials and that by adopting the resolution in your board packet tonight, we meet the needs of the statutory requirement. Our district recommends that you approve this enclosure at this time. Board President Gaby, this is an action item.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Any board member comments? All right, I will close the public hearing, reconvene regular session, and may I have a motion to approve the resolution on sufficiency of instructional materials?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Villegas and a second by Board Member Belt, call for a vote.
Student board rep votes yes. Motion passes unanimously 7-0.
All right, notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval of variable term waiver request for CCSD certification. Assistant Superintendent of HRD, Ben Dillon.
Thank you, Board President Gaby. I'm bringing to the board tonight request to approve this CCSD waiver. This is something that we have often done for our preliminary CTE credential holders. Once they receive their clear credential, it will be embedded within their credential. This is specific for a CNA instructor at our adult school. It's a unique position, and therefore the request for the waiver is why I'm bringing that forward.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Any board member comments? All right, may I have a motion to approve the notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval of variable term waiver request for CCSD certification?
So moved.
Second.
On a motion by Board Member Gamoyen and a second by Board Member Odo, call for a vote.
Student board rep votes yes. Motion passes unanimously 7-0.
All right, and Assistant Superintendent of HRD, Ben Dillon, notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval variable term waiver request for speech language pathologists.
So similar to that, requesting a waiver, for context, when we bring this type of waiver forward, specifically, we have to justify to the state that we have exhausted efforts to identify fully credentialed and certificated individuals. As you know, there's a significant shortage of speech pathologists across the state. Now, our district has made incredible headway as a result of actually some of the information Superintendent Thompson and I were talking earlier in funding to support innovative recruitment efforts, hiring more speech language pathologists this year and the past couple of years combined. However, continuing to do that, we have one more position we're seeking to fill. And so in doing so, we are requesting that you approve this waiver so that we can bring this person on board in our district and get them plugged in and start working with kids.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any board member comment? All right, may I have a motion to approve the notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval variable term waiver request for speech language pathologist?
I'll motion. I almost said approve.
I'll second. All right, on a motion by Board Member Case-Pierce-Solano and a second by Board Member Gaby, call for a vote.
Student board rep votes yes. Motion passes unanimously 7-0.
All right, notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval of provisional internship permit request. Mr. Ben Dillon.
Another. All right. So last request here for you, board, requesting a provisional internship permit. This is to support a new teacher coming on in a English position, which English and math obviously are always hard to find. And so we're very excited to be bringing this individual to our district and request that the board approve the opportunity for us to place them on a provisional internship permit.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any board member comments? All right, may I have a motion to approve the notice of intent to employ certificated personnel and approval of the PIP request?
So moved.
I'll second.
On a motion by Board Member Gamoyen and a second by Board Member Case-Beer-Soleno, call for a vote.
Student Board Rep votes yes. Motion passes unanimously 7-0.
All right, the resolution prescribing terms and authorizing the sale and issuance of bonds and refunding bonds and approval of the form of related agreements. And Chief Business Officer Nathan Hernandez, but we lost the dog.
No dog today. So
Okay.
good evening, President Gaby, members of the board, Superintendent Schrum. So this is a rather short item. This is the action item from the September board meeting where we shared the informational item related to the refunding of our Measure E, a portion of our Measure E bonds, as well as the refinancing of the issuance of our remaining Measure A bond authority. And so the resolution tonight, as I mentioned, is for those two items, the Measure E bond. We do anticipate the savings from that bond being around $5 million, and that's from the lower interest rates as well as shortening the term of the bond debt. The Measure A bond also will have some savings, and when we finalize that issuance, we'll come back to the board and do an after action review of that bond sale. There are several other documents that are in draft form that are part of the resolution and outlined in the resolution. Once the sale takes place, those will be finalized, and also we'll present those to the board. We do have the sale date set as October 24th, so we'll send an invite out for that. And lastly, the resolution outlines the key partners. Parker and Covert is bond counsel. The Bank of New York is the paying agent and escrow agent, and then GFS JPA as our financial consultants. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has about any of those other documents that are included.
Is there any public comment? Any board member comments or questions?
I was just going to make a comment when I talked to you this afternoon that we're a very solid financial state and a good risk.
Moody's will let us know on Friday.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the resolution prescribing terms and authorizing the sale and issuance of bonds and refunding bonds and the form of related agreements?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, on a motion by Board Member Odo and a second by Board Member Naylor, call for a vote.
Student Board Rep votes yes. Motion passes unanimously 7-0.
All right, warrant list. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list from August 31st, 2024 to September 27th, 2024?
All motion?
I'll second.
On a motion by Board Member Case-Beer-Soleno and a second by Board Member Belt. Call for a vote.
Student Board Rep votes yes. Motion passes 6-1 with one abstention.
All right, and the meeting is now adjourned and time to watch the Dodgers rally back.